Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Jackson Family Vlog. We are back with another video today. I know previously we did a video titled This Is Us Part 1. There you learned a little bit about my husband and I's relationship. And a little bit about the Jackson family, where today is part 2 with none other than myself. My husband is here, he's the cameraman, and he is going to be asking me the questions. So I'll let him get to it.
All right, this is us part 2. All right, first impressions. What was your immediate impression of myself?
Immediate impression. I know we met at Dollar General, and I believe I was coming down the aisle, getting ready to go to the cashier to check out. He was working there at the time, and he was kind of, leaning against the counter or whatever and smiling. So at first I was just kind of like, who is this guy? So at first he was a little charming. Yeah, you were charming. I guess that was my first impression.
Charming. All right, now, when and how did you know that you were interested?
When and how did I know I was interested? I think it was with him. Like I said, he was charming when I first met him. And then whenever he came to my house, he was more, I can tell that he was wanting to get to know me and not necessarily, other things. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, how was it dating outside of your race?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, it wasn't necessarily tough. I've always had, I guess you can say, friends of different races. Never necessarily dated outside of my race. At first, it really wasn't a big deal. I knew when I met him, I knew he was biracial or, another race. And I kind of was a little hesitant at first, not necessarily because I was worried. It was more so about other people, not my family, because my family is loving of everybody. But it's just kind of like what all comes with interracial dating.
So kind of building on top of that, have you ever faced anything while in public or in private? Any negative things with that?
Yeah. Like I said, interracial dating, it's in itself can be a big challenge. I know with me and my husband, with us dating and married now, there are times where we are out in public, whether we're going to a restaurant or just walking around the boardwalk, and you can tell people are kind of looking, trying to figure out the dynamics, more so trying to figure out his race. Because my husband is biracial. He is African American and German. So if you don't really know him, you're really not sure what his race is. So sometimes we've gotten, kind of either curious looks, sometimes mean looks, and I guess sometimes people just don't know how to express it, but definitely have faced that.
So what are the positives and the negatives, even though we've kind of covered that, of being in an interracial relationship?
The positives. I guess you can say the positives is learning about other cultures, other races, because my mother-in-law, she is fully German, and so, all of her family is German. So it's just, I guess the positives of that is learning a little bit about their culture, because like I said, I've never dated outside of my race, and so that type of stuff interests me, I guess, so to speak. So that's the positive. Now, negatives, of course, is the ugly looks or the questionable looks. It just makes you feel uncomfortable. Neither of us are the type of people that really reacts in a nasty way. But sometimes, when you're trying to go out and have a good time, have fun, and then you kind of looking and it's kind of like, okay, what are they looking at? What is it? Like, what's the problem? So that's the negatives. And we've been together for 11 years now. And so of those 11 years, none of that has changed. Unfortunately, it hasn't gotten better, no matter how long we've been together. And it kind of makes you uncomfortable. And I guess more so with me, uncomfortable, because it's like, I feel like they're more so looking at me rather than him. So.
All right, now kind of explain to people the age difference and how did that make you feel with our relationship?
Yeah. Well, I am 32 and my husband just turned 30. And so when we first met, he was 18 and I was 21. And at first I was kind of like, ooh, that's a little bit too young, because if you hear it 18 and 21, it's like, oh, that's a 3-year age difference or whatever. So at first I was skeptical because, I'm 21. I'm like, I don't want to talk to no 18-year-old. So that was a little, but as time went on, it really hasn't affected me. But I guess when we were dating, there was some negative on it because he was still young. He was a senior in high school. I was in college. So with him being young, men, they want to do their own thing. And I was a little more mature, than he was when we first met. And so that was kind of like a little challenge. It was kind of like, okay, like I have goals. I'm ready to live life, and I want things to go this way, but yet and still he is young and having fun. So yeah, it's
Right.
I guess.
Now, talk about dating a man with a child and how that affects the relationship and your relationship with said child.
Okay. So again, when I met him, I believe it was one of the times that he first came to my house. We're talking, getting to know each other, and he asked me if I had any children, and I told him no. And then and then I asked him, well, do you have any children? And he was like, well, I got one on the way. And I instantly was like, saying to myself, I didn't say that to him, but I was just kind of like, oh man, not that I felt like there was a problem with dating anyone with a child, because I have dated someone with a child before, but I was a little skeptical because, whenever I first met him, typically sometimes when you meet people, you know a little bit about them already sometimes, and I didn't really know him. I didn't really know anything about him. I didn't know the dynamics of the relationship with him and his child's mom. So I was skeptical. I think as we got to know each other more and continue dating, because at this time we weren't like in a relationship. As time went on, I started to like him more, and so a little insecurity started to kind of set in, because it was kind of like, okay, so the baby is on the way. She hadn't had the baby, so it was like, okay, so once she have the baby, is he going to are they going to get back together, or so that was kind of, it had little insecurities with that. And also it was kind of like, okay, I'm young, I don't have any children, and it's like, do you really want to be with somebody that is young and have a child, because we all know how sometimes there can be drama. But over the years, I've been in his name is Elijah, been in his life since he was born. And so we have a strong relationship. So it didn't necessarily affect me and the child's relationship. And I don't think it affected me and Lawrence's relationship either. because I don't know, I just was there. I was just supportive of him, you know. I just, I don't know. It just, it wasn't one of those things where I was instantly like, oh, I gotta run, you know. It wasn't nothing like that. It just was, I don't know, it was just kind of second nature to me. I guess I was just into you. I don't know.
So at this point, we're dating. At this point, we're together.
Okay.
But when in your head was forever for real?
Whew. And so, we dated about 8 years before we became engaged. Um, it wasn't always easy, wasn't always peaches and cream. Um, so, I mean, I always felt like that Lawrence and I could see a future with him, but of course, like I said, there was a rocky road in our relationship, and so at one point I was just kind of like, I don't really know, you know, I'm not really sure, but I think the turning point was, well, I have to tell this story. I think the turning point was, you know, sometimes when you're dating, you kind of minimize certain things, you know. At least some women, I'm being honest, you know, sometimes you don't want to bring up certain topics, certain things about marriage because you don't want to scare the man away, you know. So previously, you know, we would, you know, joke about marriage and things like that. And so there was one time I was in Kmart, and I was in line, and it was a stranger. You know, people who know me, I'm a people's person. I talk to strangers all the time. That's just my personality. So I met this lady. I don't remember her name. We were talking, and some conversation came up about, you know, if I had a significant other or someone that I, you know, wanted to spend the rest of my life with. And at the time I was just kind of like, well, I think I'm with someone that, you know, I want to spend the rest of my life with. And then she got to asking me questions, and she was like, well, are y'all married? I was like, no, ma'am, you know, we're not married. And she was like, are you living together? And I was like, yes, ma'am. And she was like, well, see, that's the she said, that's the problem. She said, you need to set some boundaries. You know, she was a counselor, and she was like, if you were in my office and in front of me, we'll be talking about boundaries. And so at that point, it kind of made me think about the future, you know, and think about, like, you know, you got to be honest with people, you know. And I think at that point, that's when it made me honest, and me and him had serious conversations about our future. And I think once we had that conversation, and to see the maturity in him talking about, you know, this is also something that he wants, I think that's when I knew that it was just kind of like, okay, I can see this being a forever thing.
Ooh. So, what makes me different than your past relationships?
Ooh. What makes you different is the way you take care of me. I think, you know, you're always worried about me. Like, you're always like, there's never been a question of whether or not you love me, whether or not you cared about me, because you always make sure that I'm okay. Like you're my safe haven. Like, I mean, I've never had anyone, I mean, of course, you know, you're dating, people say that, you know, I love you, I care about you, you know, things like that. But the way you show it, you know, it just kind of, I don't know, it just made me feel secure. Like, it's different. I mean, I can't really explain it. Maybe some of y'all may have felt the same thing, but I think that's what it is. It's just, you know, and then your sense of humor, of course. You have me laughing every single day, like every single day. So, and with me, I need that. Like, I need you to show me, and I need to feel like that you love me and care about me. Words is not enough for me to just be like, okay, you know. So I think that's what's different. You know, past relationships, you know, people say they love you and things like that, but you just different. You just, I don't know.
Oh. All right. So, moving forward, how did I ask you to marry me? How did that go?
Well, you it was on Christmas Eve. We were at your mom's or your parents' house, and which we go there every Christmas Eve to celebrate Christmas with Lawrence's mom and stepdad. And so, the kids are opening up their gifts, and everyone else is exchanging gifts. And he came back in and was like, okay, everybody, everyone was kind of preoccupied. The children were opening gifts and looking at toys, and then his mom and stepdad were somewhere, I guess, maybe picking up some of the trash or whatever. And he's like, well, I got one more question. I got one more gift. And then he got on one knee. And he asked me to marry him. No one knew he was shocked. His parents were shocked, trying to get their phones out really quick, and mom was like, what, and so yeah, that was that.
All right, so a lot of people want to know, what is the difference between dating and being married?
Well, there is a difference. I know some people I know feel like marriage and dating, there's no difference between the two. But I would have to say, with dating and marriage, the biggest difference is learning to communicate and act as one. Whereas dating, a lot of times, you would do your own thing. You may go here and do this. I may go here and do that. But there was never really just a one thing, like us doing stuff. And I think with us being married, we still, have times where you're with your friends or I'm with my friends. But I don't know, we just always that communication has gotten stronger. We talk more, I say. And then I think, as far as whenever we were dating, just one point I definitely know a big difference is, if we had any disagreements, it was kind of like, I can go days without talking to him. I can, and he was that person that's like, no, we gotta sit down and talk. But since we've been married now, we've kind of made that vow with one another that we'll never go to bed angry at each other. We'll always talk things out. So I just think that our communication and definitely our spirituality, our relationship with God has gotten way stronger since we've been married, because we do know that without him being the head of our household, things would not be going the way that they are now.
Right. So, in closing, what makes this family different than any other family?
I would say the Jacksons is, I don't know, like if you ask anyone who know us, who really know us, I think it is our love for one another. Like our love, like us with our children, like we're open with them, we laugh together, we cry together, and we have this thing in this motto in our house, actually hung up on our wall. We laugh, we cry, we do hugs, we say I'm sorry, we do all those things. And I think a lot of times with families, anytime someone has wronged someone else, it can be something so small. A lot of times we just kind of throw things under the rug and just kind of going on about our day. And I think with us as the Jacksons, like we make sure each other know how much we love each other. We make sure that we tell each other when we're doing something to hurt someone else. And we just have fun. Like, I know a lot of people may be like, oh, they're so goofy, or they're so, they don't act their age or whatever. But you know what? That's fine. That's what works for us. We like to laugh. We like to have fun. We like to make our children happy. And I think just all around, all of that, all of those values, all of those things that we have put together to make work for us, is what makes us like the best family ever.
All right.
So that is it. This is us part 2. You heard from me. Comment down below if there is anything else that you want to know about the Jacksons, and we'll be back with part 3. And we're out of here. Bye.
Bye.